Okay, so let's jump into some coding. In this module, we'll build the boilerplate code that we talked about in the previous lesson, and we'll run it using Xcode and Android, and we'll also run it using terminal. Uh, there's no specific uh, benefit of using either. It's just that people tend to have preferences, and all of them work fine. So let's get started. The first step is to clone the repository. We could also download a zip from the boilerplate GitHub repo. We'll be cloning the repo. So let's do that. Next, let's get inside the repository. And if we follow the instruction, it says we need to do yarn install or npm install. So let's do that. This is a command. Just remember this. Every time we do development, we have to start the metro bundler. And the command for that is yarn start. So as a first step, we'll try to run this on iOS, and we'll need Xcode for that. So let's launch Xcode. And then we need to go into the iOS folder. Remember, the application has iOS and Android folders at the root location. So just go into the iOS folder and do pod install. This is the one-time step. So let's just go to the iOS folder and do pod install. And then we need to open Xcode and simply run the project from there. Now let's look at a few things while we are here. So this is your Xcode interface. We'll not need much of it unless you want to run your React Native applications through Xcode. It's totally a personal preference. This is basically the project, and if you want to change your simulators, you can do it from here. If you want to add any additional simulators, we can do it from here. Then if you connect a real device through USB, that will also show up over here. It says no devices connected, but if you connect, it will show up over here. So let's see if our pods are installed. Yes, they have. So we'll just build the project. Now doing this for the first time will take some time to get this done. So once the project is built, let us continue from there. Okay, so I'm back. The project is built. Let's just run it, and it should open the simulator. While that happens, let's also start our bundler. Remember, we need to start the bundler before the project starts on the simulator. As we can see here, the bundler has started, and we can press R anytime to reload the app, and we can press D for the developer menu. That helps in debugging the entire app. We'll go over what are the different debugging options in React Native in one of the later modules. We'll cover it extensively. Again, there are multiple choices and not one answer. Now, as we can see, it was trying to load the bundle, and it has loaded. So there we have our app. This is the initial splash screen. If you want to reload the app, just press R twice once the simulator is selected, and it will reload the app. So let's continue to the application, and we have our home screen. So this is the tab-based navigation, and we have two screens over here. So let's try and make a small change and see how the live reload works. So this is the splash component, and we have the button that's called continue to app. Let's call it just continue and save, and that should reflect immediately. That was quite fast, right? Yeah. So next, let's look at the same using Android Studio. So in case you run into any issues with iOS or Android setups, I've tried to add the common errors over here. Like for iOS, one of the most common ones is pod not found. That means you don't have Cocoa pods installed in your system. So just follow the steps for that. And remember to do pod install. That's just one additional step that's required for iOS. For Android, the initial steps are the same. We clone the repo, we do npm install, and from there, let's do it from the Android Studio. So it's quite similar to how we run code with Xcode. We just build the code and run it. We can keep the bundler running as it will also be required with Android. So we have our Xcode Android Studio, and all we need to do is just press this run button. The app is already selected. Now remember to load the Android folder from the project, as we can see here at the root, the Android folder. So that needs to be loaded in Android Studio, and all we need to do is press run, and it should start the simulator that we had selected over here. It's quite similar again to Xcode, and we have our devices here. And once we connect a real device using USB, it will start showing up here. Now one additional thing, once you connect a real device, sometimes it might not show up. The reason for that is we need to enable USB debugging. So it took some time to build the app for Android Studio and install it. It does that automatically and launch. So I've skipped that part, but it's pretty much the same. Just press the run button and it should work. And we can see a very similar experience. So let's check the live reload over here. Let's again change the text to continue, and it should reflect in the app. And it says refreshing, and there we have it. So yeah, pretty much the same, right? So again, for Android too, I have added the common errors here. So next, let's look at doing the same thing using CLI. I find that to be the most the most preferred option that I use, because I don't have to launch Android Studios and Xcodes, because working on React Native, we practically don't need to do anything there, and they take up a lot of memory. So using CLI is also quite straightforward. If we move to the iOS section, using the terminal, all we need to do is we need to run this particular command, react native run iOS. For Android, it's run Android, and then we pass in the simulator name. So let's just do that. We need to have the bundler running. So I'll just open a new tab at the root location, remember, and just run the command. Now remember this, the name of the simulator that we pass in, that should exist in our system, otherwise this command won't work. So just check for that. Now one way to find the simulators installed in your system is by running a very simple command, xrun simctl list, and it will give you all the simulators that are installed. So here I picked iPhone 11, and the first time this command may take time. And remember, we are running the code using CLI, but that doesn't mean that we don't need Xcode installed in the system. We do need Xcode in the system, so do install that and update it. And as a check, just run Xcode once. What I'm saying is we don't need to run the code using Xcode once, but just run it, launch the Xcode application once. The first time we launch Xcode, we'll try to install additional tools that are required to run these commands and build build Mac app and iOS apps using CLI. So that is required. So there we have. And so this is also a preferred way. You can simply run one command from the terminal and it works. Let's try the same for Android. So it's quite similar for Android. The command just varies a little. We again have our React Native and then run Android. Now here we have a variant if you want to run in debug mode or in release mode, and instead of simulator we are saying device ID. This is again a device ID, and it's a simulator that needs to be installed on your system again. And one way to find it is using this command. It will list down all the simulators in your system. So let's try and run this command. The one difference between Android and iOS using CLI is that when we launched the command for iOS, it launched the simulator, installed the app, and then kickstarted the app. In Android, we have to launch the simulator separately and then run this particular command. So let's run the simulator first. The command for that is quite similar to this one. So it's basically going to the emulator folder and then -avd and then the device name. So that should start the simulator for us. Next, let's copy the command. We don't need to copy the device ID because we only have one simulator running. So it will automatically install our app in that and launch it. It's quite similar to iOS, except that one extra step of launching the simulator first. So again, building this for the first time, it will take a little longer. So let me just jump to that. And I'm back. It does take a little bit of time the first time we do it, though this is all also a lot dependent on the kind of machine that we are running. We just saw the different ways of running the app, either through Xcode or Android or terminal. To summarize, if you want to use Xcode, just open the appname.xeosys project in the Xcode and run it. Don't forget to start your Metro bundler. For Android, just open the Android folder and run it. Again, quite simple. For CLI, start the Metro bundler, and for iOS, just run a single command that we can find here. And for Android, run the simulator first and then run this command. As I said earlier, through the rest of the course, we'll be building an e-commerce app. Now, we'll not be building the entire app, but major parts of it, like the home page, the PDP, and a little bit of card. And I'll leave the rest to the students to complete, as we would have covered most of the aspects of building app using React Native. The important part is to understand how these pieces fit together. And it's not just about extending our JavaScript expertise. Now that's an obvious goal, but it's also about how do you build an app? How do you start from a blank slate and take the journey of building a production app? As I like to call it, from storyboarding to production. And with that goal in mind, I'll see you in the next module.